from the Courier-Journal from the year 1980. Mr. Nice Guy. Marshall the Menace alters his image as bowling's Brat. Marshall Holman's bowling debut in Louisville was, well, boring. He didn't kick any babies, push any old ladies, antagonize any of his rivals, or eat his bowling ball. In fact, the enfant terrible of professional bowling was on his best behavior yesterday in the opening round of qualifying for the American Bowling Congress Masters Tournament. When he walked out, the first thing he did was wave at some friends in the stands. Then he signed autographs for a kid and an ABC official. He also smiled a lot. The most controversial thing he did was question some of the pin placements and ask for a couple of resettings. And the most colorful thing he did was to make a fist, punch the air, and do a little stutter step after making a strike. This was the guy who once got a year's probation for conduct unbecoming. The probation resulted from an incident last year in Seattle when Holman got so agitated during a match with Jeff Mattingly that he did the following as Mattingly rolled 3 straight strikes: kicked a chair, kicked a ball rack, and threw pencils. That kind of behavior has earned Holman, 25, the reputation as pro bowling's answer to the terrible trio of tennis, Jimmy Connors, John McEnroe, and Ilie Nastase. Holman pleads guilty, but only to trying to inject a little color into the sport. Anytime you promote interest in the sport, it's good, Holman says. We basically have a certain style, which is no style. Pro bowlers need more flair with the way they dress and act. He has a point. Although pro bowling has a large and loyal following, the Saturday afternoon bowling shows on television have had consistently high ratings for years. A lot of pro bowlers are as anonymous as soccer players or roller derby queens or wrestlers. Ask Joe Fan to name 5 top tennis pros, and he probably can do it. Ditto for golf. But bowlers? Joe Fan might be able to come up with Mark Roth and Earl Anthony. He might throw in Dick Weber. Otherwise, though, bowling pros operate in sort of a vacuum as far as recognition and publicity are concerned. Holman, for better or worse, is changing all that. Weber, one of the sport's all-time greats, was present at the creation of Marshall the Menace. It happened in 1976 in the Firestone Tournament of Champions. The crowd became so disgusted by Holman's behavior that it openly rooted against him. Weber finally had to ask them to stop. Holman's controversial behavior finally earned him recognition in the April 21, 1980 issue of Sports Illustrated. The sub-headline on the story said, "Marshall Holman is a hot dog to some fans, but others relish his style." In an interview here yesterday, Holman said he had mixed feelings about the story. "I didn't particularly like the way they started the article," he said. "They quoted me as saying, 'I'm not perfect, but I'm as close as anybody could get.' I think that was quoted out of context. I was saying that in a group of friends in a kidding way." To hear Holman tell it, he's even mellowed in the last year or so. "Mostly it's just out of age," he said, "but I'm also not getting so upset that things bothered me as they did in the years past. I'm a fairly rational human being, and I sat back and talked to myself. It just doesn't do any good to get that upset. So I'm not blowing up as much, and that's a plus factor. There have been times where I'd be going good, and I'd get a couple of bad breaks. I'd ask, why is this happening to me? I'd get very intense to the point where I was throwing away wood pins. I've had tournaments where I missed the top 5 by 1 pin. I've learned, I guess, that you can't afford to give away anything." Like Connors, Holman's reputation as a brat tends to obscure the fact that he's also one of the tour's best bowlers. He has won 11 Professional Bowlers Association tournaments and more than $350,000 in 7 years. Last year, he averaged 217 pins a game, third behind Roth's 221 and Anthony's 219, and became the youngest bowler in PBA history to earn more than $100,000 in a year. His future seems limitless, but at times, Holman is his own worst enemy, and his fits of temper are only part of the reason. "After the winter tour, I found myself in the uncomfortable position of being in only 12th or 13th place," Holman said. "I was not pulling together as much as I can. I don't always give myself 100% concentration. I guess I get too satisfied with my position. I've got to be a little more aggressive, a little meaner. This summer, I might be hungrier. The summer tour starts June 2 with the PGA doubles in Las Vegas, which I predict Mark Roth and I will win again. Unsurprisingly, Holman has his own perspective about the ABC Masters. After 5 qualifying games yesterday and 5 today, the 64 qualifiers, 55 pros, 8 state representatives, and 1979 champion Doug Myers will begin double elimination match play Friday. The 1980 championship will be decided Sunday night in matches that will be televised nationally by the ESPN cable network. This is a good tournament, Holman said, but from my standpoint, it's not as big as it would be to Don Johnson or Carmen Salvino or somebody who has been bowling for 15 years. It's not the bowling what the Masters in golf is. It's something I'd love to have, of course, but I'd just as soon win a national stop on the Winter Tour as win this tournament. Nevertheless, he got off to a fine start yesterday, rolling games of 233, 268, 214, 179, and 215 for an 1109 total. A similar effort today ought to easily qualify Holman for the qualifying round of 64. And in match play, Holman's aggressiveness and competitiveness ought to give him an edge. It's very tough to compete against the best in the world without getting to a certain level of concentration, Holman said. I can't compete at that level without getting aggressive and intense. But I think the fans recognize my ability as an athlete and the pains I take when I'm working. Some take offense, but I think the majority are coming around for me. I've been in the public's eye long enough that they understand me and are getting used to me. Marshall the Menace smiled his best Boy Scout smile. I'm just the way I am, that's all.